Hello, it's Barbara here, working alongside Phil in our benefice. I'm down to do a short talk about our reading this week, which is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. Quite a familiar reading to a lot of us. When evening had come, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with them. A great gale arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion, and they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you no faith?" And they were filled with a great awe and said to one another, "Who is this then, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Very special reading about Jesus bringing calmness into our lives. And quite a few years ago, I was really fortunate to go on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. And the trip started at the Pilgrim House on the shores of Lake Galilee, which was both wonderful and peaceful. We then had a very, very busy week traveling around many of the parts of the Holy Land, seeing and experiencing many sights, and we were physically and spiritually walking in Jesus' steps. At the end of the trip, although we were on a spiritual high, many of us were really physically tired. It was not good news when we reached the airport at Tel Aviv to travel home to be told there was a national strike and the airport would be closed for at least 2 days. The really good news was that our travel company arranged for us to return to that wonderful Pilger guest house on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. And this really was a wonderful bonus, to have the time to relax and reflect on all that we'd seen by sitting on the banks of the Sea of Galilee. I took some wonderful photographs of the Sea of Galilee, one of which you can see behind me, and I use it as a screensaver. Each time I set up my laptop and see that image of the Sea of Galilee, I'm immediately taken back to the time I spent there in calm and tranquility. So I can very easily relate to Jesus wanting to take his disciples away from the crowd by taking them across the sea. Having seen the hills that surround the sea, I can also understand how a sudden storm can blow up. The Sea of Galilee is still, to this day, notorious for its storms. They can come easily and literally right out of the blue. A writer described them like this: "It's not unusual to see terrible squalls hurl themselves, even when the sky is perfectly clear, upon these waters which are ordinarily so calm. They are caused by numerous ravines to the northeast of the lake, bringing high winds down the mountains and forcing the winds almost through a wind tunnel to narrow ravines and onto the lake. So to this day, anyone crossing the lake is liable to get caught up in a storm." So imagine the scene that we were told of in the reading from Mark. The little boat, part of a flotilla, crossing the lake with a very tired Jesus, who was taking his disciples away from the crowds so that he could have some time alone with them for teaching and prayer. In the boat, Jesus would have occupied the place where a distinguished guest would have been put. We're told that in these boats, the place for a distinguished guest is on a little seat placed in the stern, where a carpet and cushion are there for comfort. The helmsmen stand further back on the deck in order to have a better lookout ahead. And I think it's important in this reading that we look beyond the very special physical miracle in which an actual storm was stilled. Although this was very special and wonderful and something we should marvel at, but it's something that just happened once. So in some ways it could be regarded as something almost like a one-off. But if we think about the reading in a more symbolic sense, it can be much more meaningful. Put yourself in the place of one of those disciples in the bow of the boat. Let yourself become one of the range of emotions that would have been part in the hearts of Jesus' followers that day. Share the sense of relief as you're called away from that busy and noisy crowd to join Jesus in the boat, the sense of security and safety as the boat leaves the shore. Then share in the sense of growing anxiety as the sky darkens and the wind gets up. Share the sense of increasing helplessness, fear and despair as the waves beat into the boat and the waters begin to swamp it. Then share in the sense of rising frustration and impatience as Jesus continues to sleep peacefully in the stern. Imagine how you'd feel if someone who had supported, guided, and led you suddenly was not there in a time of your crisis and danger. Finally, share the profound wonder and amazement as Jesus calmly stands in the stern of the boat and commands the waves and the wind, "Be still." And then the feeling of absolute awe as the billowing waves return to calm and the turbulent winds return to tranquility. Led me to ponder how we would feel. Would we have the faith to be confident that Jesus was in command? Would we feel today that Jesus can have peace even in the wildest storms of our lives? Is our faith that strong? Jesus does give us peace in the storms of our lives, in sorrow, when the darkness of death or danger comes. He can change it to the sunshine of life eternal. He gives us peace when life's problems have us in a tempest of doubt and uncertainty. We all have times when we are so full of stress and anxiety that we don't know which way to turn. We need the faith to turn to Jesus and to say, "Lord, what shall I do?" And then have the additional faith to put our problems in God's hands so they can guide us through the personal storms of our lives. God will give us peace in those storms of anxiety, those times when we worry for ourselves, when we worry about an unknown future, when we worry about those whom we love. At those times, our worries can totally overcome us. But Jesus speaks to us of a Father whose hand is always there for us, particularly in one of my favourite Psalms, Psalm 139. "Your hand shall lead me, your right hand will hold me fast." So we need to find that space, that time in our lives, so we can be given that sense of awe and wonder, that we know that Jesus' hand will hold us fast when we're in trouble. We know how the disciples felt when the storm was stilled. We need to find our own space, our own sense of calm whether it's through creation, music, prayer, meditation, art, whatever we find that keeps us still and calm in the storms of our life. And also to remember that Jesus' hand is there. His hand will hold us fast. God's hand is there. We just need to have the faith to put our hand into it to help each one of us through the storms of life. Amen.